main issue is right now.
And yes, there it is, this heightened anxiety and depression and Hi everyone, Shaelene McInnis here with Books in Line and also with the Ontario Wellness Network digital magazine. As you know, we're doing podcasts. I'm doing podcasts specifically focusing on wellness. And this is a person, Lia, who I've known for a very long time. It is probably known by many of the people who are watching or listening to this. Leah has done some amazing work with anyone who has been through trauma. And I'm going to ask her to speak to that. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. A reminder, I will include all of the contact information on the podcast notes. And if for some reason you can't get hold of Leah, then you can just call us at Books in Line and we'll be happy to connect you with Leah. Thank you. Leah, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here talking about probably one of the top three of my favorite topics. And so I am a trauma relief specialist and empowerment coach, cognitive
Mhm.
behavior therapist, and I do all kinds of like other modalities and methodologies in the work that I do, in the therapy work and coaching that I do. And I mainly work with women now
Mhm.
because I have identified, and we'll get into that, some patterns that happen repeatedly in, just in society in general. But
Mhm.
that's also where I have seen a huge need.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my niche right now. And I don't know, aside from that, what do you want to know about me?
Well, it's interesting because you and I have had a few conversations along this line. I know that going through COVID, I've seen a lot of different abuse, financial abuse, especially because, of course, we do bookkeeping and taxes. That's our specialty. So I have seen that. Can you tell me what you have seen coming out or even during COVID and coming out of
Mhm.
COVID? That's just been such a tough time.
Huge tough time. And up until last year, I was doing work with Victim Services, which
Hmm.
is a
Hmm.
service through our police services for victims of crime.
Hmm.
So victims of crime, so that everybody is aware that if, and it doesn't have like is it doesn't even have to be a charges laid. If
Hmm.
you go to the police for something like abuse or domestic violence,
Hmm.
you may be entitled, more likely be entitled to 10 sessions
Hmm.
um, of counseling, and it's free to
Excellent. Yeah.
you. So
Excellent.
I do get paid. These people are always like, what? You no, 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 I do get paid. But it's a
Yeah.
great service. And through that, and I did that for probably 6, 7 years.
That's some
Um,
hard work. Ooh,
it was
I,
really hard work.
that would be
And
very
I'll tell you,
difficult.
90% or more, maybe, um, of my cases, of my clients, were domestic violence.
Mm.
And I was
Oh,
still doing it when COVID hit, that
yes.
went up tremendously. Now, the
Yes.
issue, of course, during the pandemic, and especially during our lockdowns,
Mm.
were that people were locked in with their abusers
Yes.
and they
Yes.
couldn't even get to help, right?
No.
and
No.
and so there were some avenues around that, but I've seen an increase even since, I still say we're in like we're not in a pandemic anymore, but
Yeah.
COVID's still
But
around.
oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
And I think that whole situation for all of us,
Mm.
whether you have had mental health issues in the past, and most people have, by the way,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
or, like things were relatively good for you.
Hmm.
When we were all in that lockdown situation,
Yes.
what I believe happened, and I know it certainly happened for me,
Hmm.
was it brought up a lot of past stuff, a lot of
Yes.
past trauma. I mean, first of all, for a lot of people, it was probably the first time that you were forced to sit down and be still. Like
Yeah.
even for, you know what I
So
mean?
true. Yeah.
Lots of escapes, of course, like in the era of, Netflix and chill kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? But um, when I continued to see people, I was very fortunate. I
Yeah.
didn't have much of a slowdown,
Yeah.
a couple of weeks basically when people were sort of like we were all trying to get our bearings around it. And then people were like, I really need to see you.
Yes.
And it was interesting, the people that did reach out, and some of them were in with family members, not just necessarily that were in a violent situation, but you know, the family members were the problem or causing some of
Yes.
the issues for
Yes.
them. I would have people in cars. I would have people drive to a parking lot and come on
Yes.
so that they could see me. Because of course
Yep.
it was all virtual at that point.
Yes.
So I saw these patterns that were happening with people, and it was like even people who had coping skills
Hmm.
that got questioned. It was,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? So mental
Absolutely.
health issues I'm still seeing more anxiety, more depression,
Absolutely.
um, than ever before.
Yes.
And I think it impacts all of us. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I absolutely agree. Yep,
yeah,
yep. And
yeah,
it's funny that you say that because I was in a lot of the same situation where my clients, because of whatever was going on in their home, usually with their partner, they would go to a parking lot to call me to discuss everything to do with their taxes and whatever
yes,
else was going on in their lives. And they were actually calling me from parking lots or from
yes,
stores or somewhere else so that they wouldn't be in the from the park. They go for a walk in the park with their
yes, yeah,
dog and give me a
yeah,
call.
yeah,
And the mental health, I see it still quite prevalent. I see it in teenage girls because I have two teenage girls
mm,
and I see them and all of their friends. And yes, there it is, this heightened anxiety and depression and sadness and crying. And yeah,
mm.
it's very trying
Yeah,
for a
and
lot.
that's an interesting point for you to bring up because I started my counseling career
Mhm.
working with teens.
Mm,
And
mhm,
23 years ago,
mhm.
I worked
Wonderful.
at the youth center here in Ajax, and I was there for about 5 years.
Mhm,
And they kept bringing me back. So I would try
mhm.
to leave to start my own thing, and I did. I started my own
Yes.
practice. But I was always kind of a part of that for a long time, and there were many issues back then
Yeah,
too, right?
absolutely, yeah.
um but my kids were teens at the time when I was
Yes.
working with these teens. And it was both, boys and girls, and
Yeah.
I have both boys and a girl.
Mhm.
So it was so interesting for me to see like the different situations that some of these we had a lot of kids from private schools
Yeah.
that
Oh,
I found,
really?
yes,
Hmm.
yes. And a lot of them were away from home and
Yes.
isolated sort of from their
Mhm.
families. But also, here's what I learned during that whole time and have carried it right through my practice is that what is taught in the not just early years. I mean, there's a lot of talk, the early years being, up until 5 years old that they're
Mm.
learning. But trust me, they are still learning after that, and they are watching. And
Yes.
the subtle things, what seem like subtle things, but are really big things, like what kind of boundaries are being set in your family,
Yes.
how do
Yes.
you argue, how when you someone disagrees with you or you disagree with someone, how is that handled, how is
Yes.
conflict management handled, like all of that impacts all of us greatly. And even in my own life, that's what I
Yes.
really recognized was, I didn't have an ideal childhood. I don't know many people who have, to be
My
really truly
husband.
honest.
Honestly, my husband is the only
Yes,
person I know.
but I'll tell you, my husband used to say he did too, or we used to, and then the little issues came out. Nobody has a perfect, like
No.
ideal, yes, there are certainly amazing parents, and I think now more than ever because we're more conscious of it. But I
Yeah.
grew up in a very traditional Italian household
Mhm.
where getting your point across was screaming and yelling, right? But if you were male, if you were
Ah,
female, no,
yeah.
You're
Yeah,
not
it
allowed to, right?
definitely, yeah,
So
definitely,
those
yeah.
kinds of things influence how you are now going to be later in a relationship. And I do, I
Yes,
do a lot of relationship work still now.
yes,
Um, and so when you come into your teen years, let's think about this. You are at that point, I always say you got one foot in adulthood and one foot in childhood still,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're trying
absolutely.
to figure it all out, and especially with girls, bless you, because the drama, everything is
Oh my God.
drama. So, but if they have, here's what I always say to parents to reassure them. If you have given them the base values and the
Yes,
base communication tools, right?
yes.
Are they, going to fall off the path? Yeah, of course, we all
Of course
do,
there are.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
But they will course correct at some point.
I agree.
And with the big stuff, you're in their head. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh yeah.
So it's a difficult time, but honestly, good for you for being even aware, because
Oh yeah.
now is the time. Now is the
Absolutely.
time
Yeah.
where they're watching to see how you handle relationships, how you handle conflict.
Yes.
And this is not to put pressure on parents out there, please trust me, because it's a hard enough job. So I'm sure there's people going, oh gosh, now I got to be worried about what
Yeah,
am I
no.
modeling. No,
Yeah.
I don't want you to be worried about that, because it's the consistent stuff, right?
Yes. Yes,
We
I
all
agree.
listen. I will admit I yelled at my kids
Oh yeah.
sometimes.
Yep.
I did not like my kids a lot of times. Like,
Yeah.
that's just human, right?
Yes, right,
Yeah.
right, and that's what I've been working on with my girls, and I've been saying to them, "I am not perfect. I have made many mistakes. I will continue to make mistakes. I am not perfect. You will also make mistakes, but that's
Yeah.
okay. It's not who you are.
That's right.
It's
Oh, I
something that
love
has
that.
happened, but it is not who you are, right? Like what
I
has
love
happened is not who you are. I'm very, very clear about that. And I
mm,
also tell them, look, at your brain's still growing. You're going to make lots of mistakes.
oh yes.
I don't care what those mistakes are. You come and you tell me about it. We have a very open door
Mhm.
policy.
Yeah.
Anything in the world doesn't matter. They can come and talk to me. They know it. I hope that continues. But yeah, I think that's kind of a big thing, is making sure everyone knows this, and we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Uh, Stop living in shame of any kind. It was a
Yes.
mistake. You learn from it. You move on. I find a lot of people, because I do a lot of work with people going through divorce, and people who are in relationships with a narcissist, for example, because we have
Mhm.
so hundreds, if not thousands, of clients with books online. But and with COVID, though, everything came pouring out, especially with the lockdown. People were suddenly trapped in their homes with
Yeah.
another person who was verbally abusive, mentally abusive, wouldn't speak to them for days. Just so many
Mhm.
examples.
Yes.
And I like what you're saying about a lot of that. And everyone needs to learn to forgive themselves. And listen, I keep
Yeah.
trying to that too.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not
Well, it's a
perfect
work.
at
I
it.
always say to people, I'm a work in progress till the
Oh
day I
yes,
die. you
yes,
know,
yes. That's
and
never
and
going to. Yep,
and
me
the
too.
forgiveness piece is so huge, and there's a
Yeah.
lot kind of out there in some worlds, right? About you must forgive yourself, you must forgive your abuser, you must, otherwise you. And I'm sorry, yes, I agree with that.
Hmm.
However, I also know how hard that is, and some
Hmm.
people are not ready to forgive.
Nope. No, no,
And having said
absolutely.
that, they can still heal
Mhm.
and,
Yes.
tune into what they really want for themselves,
Yes.
and just kind of go, bless you, I don't want you in my life anymore.
Right.
But I'm not going to forgive you.
Yeah, you're not
Or
gonna take up
the biggest
space.
piece, of course, is the self-forgiveness. But
Yes.
even with that, it's hard, and it's so I always say to people, look, if you look back on your life, we all make mistakes.
Yes.
Everybody makes mistakes. If they're
Yes.
honest, they will admit that,
Yep.
right? And so it's about forgiving
Mhm.
yourself. It's like, okay, here's what I say to people all the time. Did you do the best you could at the time with what you knew? And
Yes.
of course, the
Yes.
answer is always yes,
It's
because
always
if you
yes.
knew better
You
at
would
the
have done
time, you would have done better. right?
I say that's funny because I say those exact words to my girls. Everyone is just doing the best they can. You know, maybe this person made that decision, and maybe you think it's a terrible decision, but
Yes.
we are all doing the best that we can. It's not like, oh, today I'm not going to do the best that I can. Today I'm just going to, do halfway what I can. Nobody says that.
That's right. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy you're seeing that, because
Yeah.
who wakes up any given morning
Mhm.
going, today I'm gonna really screw up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
really mess
I'm
up.
just going to do
Like,
things halfway today.
yeah, I'm not gonna really try. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah.
nobody
Nobody
has that
does.
intention.
No.
And as a matter of fact, often we have a really good intention when we wake up. And it's like,
Yes.
oh, today, I try to do that, a lot of mornings. I wake up,
Yeah.
today's going to be a great day. And
Yeah.
it starts off a great day. And then I get a phone call and something has
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
trip down your front steps and all of a sudden you've broken your ankle. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's not such a great day today, right? So we have a lot of control. I mean, one of the things that I practice a lot and have right from the beginning, but I have incorporated into my practice now in a slightly different way than sort of the clinical way, is
Mhm.
cognitive behavior therapy.
Oh.
And,
Oh,
it's big words, but really what that is your thoughts create your feelings, and your feelings
100%.
create your resulting behaviors. The
That's right.
issue is that we're not aware of what these thoughts are, because often they are very subconscious thoughts.
Right.
So the real trick is to create the awareness around what your thinking is and what those patterns are. And beliefs are just the really deep rooted, almost unconscious
Right.
thought patterns, right? And
Yeah.
but here's the thing, here's the tricky part. Um, you feel you will often have the feeling first, the feeling of anger
Yes.
or sadness, or I have people all the
Or
time, and even for myself sometimes I'll be like, what is up with me? Things are
yes.
going well, there's no big
Yeah,
thing
like, what's
going
going on
on,
with yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
feeling really sad today, or I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
irritated, or I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And then, though, part of the process that I teach people is, let's, stop long enough to go, okay, I'm feeling angry.
Yes.
What are the thoughts that I was having
Yes.
possibly right before that happened? Because you
Yes.
you feel it first, because our feelings have an actual memory.
Yeah.
This is now the work that I'm learning now as a gentle
Mhm.
trauma release practitioner, is that our bodies, of course, are
Tell
speaking to us
us.
all the time, and our
Mhm.
feelings live in our bodies, right?
Mhm.
I try to help people to identify where they feel it in their body. For me, it's my
Yes.
gut,
Yep.
right,
Yep.
right. My solar
Yep.
plexus just goes,
Yep.
ooh, and it's like,
Yep.
uh-oh, something's happening.
Yep. Yep.
And so then when you kind of identify the feeling, and then you stop long enough to go, what am I
Yes.
thinking right now?
Yeah,
And it
what's
might
going
be
on? Yeah.
something as subtle as, oh, I wanted it to be sunny today because I want to go for a walk, and then I wanted to go down to the lake, and like, those are subconscious. I wanted to, and it's not turning out the way I wanted.
Yes,
You know
yes,
what I'm
yes.
saying?
I
Or
do.
just, yeah, even, I don't know. I really wanted to have oatmeal for breakfast this morning, and there's no oatmeal. So I can start to get irritated.
Yes.
You're not conscious of those thought
No,
processes.
no, no. No,
See what
no,
I'm
no
saying?
milk for my tea is my thing. If I don't have milk for my
Yeah,
tea,
yeah,
I
that'll
it
set you off.
just the whole day. I love what you're talking about with this cognitive stuff. I have this thing I learned it somewhere. ABC, action, belief, and consequence. Right?
Yes,
It's not the action that causes the consequence.
yes,
A doesn't equal C. I'll give you an example. It's B equals C. The belief is the consequence. So, for example,
yeah,
I'm driving on the 401 and someone cuts me off. So that's the action. They've cut me off on the highway. So that doesn't result in me going and yelling and screaming at them or anything else. My belief about it determines what's going to
yeah,
happen. For example, I might think, you know what, maybe they're really in a hurry. They may have a sick child. Maybe they got to get to the school, or they're late for work. Maybe they're having a bad day. And then I just let it go. That's the belief and the consequence. Or I can be really mad and go, I can't believe that this person has cut me off. I'm so some nerve. I'm going to pull up beside them and start screaming at them. See,
Yeah.
that's the consequence. But it's not because of the action of
Yeah.
the person cutting me off. It's how I think about it. So I try to practice that. So it's ABC. A does
I
not
love it.
equal C. B equals C. Action
Correct.
doesn't create the consequence. The belief that you have creates the consequence.
So we need to, because it's so interesting. I use that exact scenario
Really?
or often, very
I
often.
That's
But here's how I
amazing.
use it. I don't say ABC, but it's
Yeah.
going to be, and we're going to fit in because here's what's missing for me
Yes.
is the
Yes.
feeling part. And the feeling
Right.
part is the most important part because here's what happens. So if we did
Yes.
the scenario, going down the 401, if you're in the Ontario
Mhm.
area, you know what that
Yeah.
is. But it's a highway. You're going down the
Mhm.
highway and you're humming along and you woke up that morning going, it's going to be a great day. And you get in your
Yeah.
car and you got your favorite music on, and you're feeling really good.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden somebody speeds up next to you and cuts you off. And all of a sudden you grip the wheel and you put
So
on
the
your brakes
feeling has
and
come over.
your heart
Yes.
rate is going
Yes.
and you're breathing a little heavier and you're right
Yeah.
or more shallow. And so, and then your thought process
Yes. The
might
belief. Yeah.
be that
Can't
a
believe this.
oh, say a
Yeah.
bad word. um, how dare he? You're like, who does he think he is? I'm not going to let him get away with that. And then you speed
Exactly.
up. So there's the
Y-
behavior, right?
Yeah.
So the feeling is anger. The
Yes.
thought process is, how dare he? I'm not going to let him get
Yes.
away with that. And then the resulting behavior is you speed up, and now you could potentially cause an accident. Or if
Right.
these days, listen, I always say to people, be very careful because you never know if somebody's got a gun
I
or
never
where
exactly.
they're at in their mental health or lack of it,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
could, cut you off and then start something. And this almost happened to my brother, believe it or not. But anyway, so let's look at the second scenario.
Hmm.
So that's not a good outcome, obviously.
No.
Second scenario, you're going along, you're listening to your tunes, you're singing along, and all of a sudden this person speeds up, cuts you off, and speeds away. You're still going to have the same body reactions.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to recognize.
Yeah.
You're still going to grip the wheel and your
Your
heart's going to
heart.
be
Yeah.
racing and you're going to be breathing shallow and you're going to be like, oh, wow, that was really close.
Yeah.
And wow, I wonder where they're trying to get to in such a rush,
Yeah.
right? This is
Yeah.
very similar.
Exactly.
Gosh, I hope their people in their life is okay. I hope they're not trying to get to a hospital or,
Yeah. And that's
something
the
has
thing.
happened, or
That's
they
right.
could just be a-holes,
Yeah.
But here's the difference. Your resulting behavior is going to
Yes.
be, phew, dodged a bullet. So happy
Yep.
everything's okay.
Yeah.
You crank up the tunes again and you just go
And you
on your
put
merry
yourself right
way.
back in the to the right
And your
mindset.
day
Yes.
is then not going to be affected. Do you see
Yes.
the difference? So
Absolutely do.
I love that you're using that scenario,
Oh,
and we
please
need to
go right
find
ahead.
a.
ABC, action, belief, and consequence.
Okay, but we need to get feelings in there. Maybe
And
action. I
action,
don't know.
belief, action,
Beliefs. The belief is
feelings,
your
and
thoughts.
belief.
So this is
Yeah.
what I love. The belief is your thoughts.
Right. And
The
then C is
action is your
consequence.
behavior,
Right. The
and
action
the
is, yeah.
resulting consequences. Right? Is
Right. But
kind
I
of
like that because it's action. And I like your idea, though. Feelings, then belief, then consequence. I like that. That putting in the
yeah.
feeling
And the
first,
truth is that
then the
the
beliefs and
in
what
the
you're thinking.
moment, that's how
Yeah.
it feels. Like you have the feeling, and
Yes.
then you realize you're having this thought process, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the truth is, thoughts always come first, always,
Yeah, yeah,
100% of the time.
it's interesting. I I want to actually talk about something else. I want to make sure that people can get hold of you. So tell me about your private practice. I know that you work a lot with people, so I'd love to, especially since COVID, you must be extremely busy, actually, I would think.
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
yeah, please yeah.
And here's the other. So I have a private practice
Hmm.
where it's a fee for service.
Hmm.
And I work with, like I said, I'm working with women now,
Hmm.
particularly women who are going through a difficult time of life,
Yes.
which could mean all kinds of things. But I'll
Yes.
tell you, most of them do come to me because of major relationship issues
Yeah.
or just, what I'm seeing, especially since COVID, in different, especially in certain populations. Obviously, the medical field, we all get it, right? Like they
Yes.
were put through hell, really.
Absolutely.
And I
Yes.
have several clients who are in that field who are having
Yes.
extremely difficult mental health issues.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it does affect, because everything affects everything. So this is what, I always kind of say to people, look, you've got, something's happening at work. Your work's not going well. You're stressed to the max. You're overwhelmed. Do you think you're bringing that home to your family?
Yeah.
Of course you are, right? Or you
Yes.
don't have time to be with your children because you're
Yes.
working 12-hour days every
Yeah.
day. And so it affects the relationships. So what I like to do with people is let's identify what the main issue is right now. Like, what is causing
Yes.
you the greatest amount of anxiety or
Yes.
depression?
Yeah.
Um, and then we start to kind of go off from there, right?
Yes.
So really, stage one is healing.
Perfect.
And the healing now that I'm adding this new modality to my toolbox is let's look at healing from the body, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Don't many of us just wait until there's a major health issue and then we're like, oh, all of a
Yep.
sudden I've got, like, for me, it was horrible digestive issues for the longest time.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And when I
Yep.
recognized that was just a major byproduct of what was happening here,
Yes.
which was causing certain
Absolutely.
feelings,
Yeah.
right? So I help people to identify that. And then we do that healing process and we work on healing the mind. Sometimes often it's simultaneous, right? What are the thinking patterns that you've had for so long? What
Yes. Yep.
what are the belief systems that have been instilled in you?
Hmm.
Why don't you put up boundaries? Boundaries is huge. We've talked about this. It's
Yes, we
one of the
have.
main things we address once
Yeah.
we get into, because people need to get into homeostasis first. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's like it's that leveling. It's that, feeling like I can handle whatever is kind of coming my way.
Right.
Doesn't mean that life's going to be perfect, or that you are going to feel wonderful 100% of the time. I
Yeah.
mean, always say to people, listen, you're going to get angry.
Yeah.
100% you're going to get angry. Someone is going to set you off. You're going to feel sad,
Yeah.
if and in certainly in these times there's a lot to be stressed about and there's a lot
Yes,
to
there
feel sad about.
is.
But we
Yes.
need to get you, even just for a little while, to a space where it's like, okay, I can now clearly look at what's going on in my life.
Hmm.
And because I mean I have clients who, I mean, I know you see this a lot. Financial stuff right
Yeah.
now is
Yeah.
massive.
Oh my God, so
And I have
huge.
clients who feel like they are never ever going to get ahead and
Yep.
they're never going to get out of this hole. And
Absolutely.
they're
Yep.
now think about that. So as I'm saying those words, how does that feel?
Makes me kind of feel a little sick to my stomach. Honestly, that's how I feel, like
Yes,
sick to my
yeah.
stomach, because I
And
think of
so
some of
how,
my clients. Yeah.
yes,
It's
how do you
awful.
make good
Yeah.
decisions when you're feeling like that?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Or how can you even see the alternatives?
I'm going to
So,
ask you, let me
yeah,
ask a question. Sorry, because I think this is good. I want to know, and I think everyone would want to know. How is it that you remind yourself to go, wait a minute, let's look at this feeling. Wait a minute, let's see where this is coming from. Is there some kind of a way? I'd like to make it something like a habit. Like I like when I
yeah.
go to a stop sign, every time I stop at a stop sign, I say something positive. This
Okay.
is just something that I
I
do,
love
even if I'm not feeling
the
it.
signs and symbols you're using this morning because they are exactly. I have something called the stop method, and
Oh, oh
here's
yeah,
something you
that's
can
what I want
do
to know.
anywhere, anytime.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting that you use a physical stop sign, but you don't
Yes.
have to, you know. And here's the stop method, and this is for any time you kind of feel yourself starting, feeling
Yep, that
anxious, or
tensions, yeah,
you feel the blood starting to
overwhelmed.
boil, or whatever is happening for you. Okay.
Right.
So the S is for stop. And I literally say to people, visualize a stop sign.
Yeah.
Right? And the meaning you're going to stop that train of thought that's going on
Yes.
right now. So just stop whatever's happening in your brain right now, in your mind, you're going to stop it.
Stop it.
Then the T is for
Mhm.
take a breath. And I always say, take a few breaths, right? Deep
Yes.
breaths. I teach people how to deep breathe. I mean, people always laugh when I say that. It's like, well,
It's so true.
breathing
No,
isn't
you're
rocket science. I said, yes, except that most people are doing it wrong in
exactly.
the sense of what are you providing your body? You're not giving your body. And when you don't have enough oxygen, your
Yes.
mind goes wacky. Your brain, it's actually a brain function that is
Mhm.
not having, there's not enough blood going to your brain.
Yeah.
We're going to stop and take 3 deep breaths. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be anything
Stop.
formal.
Take a
Just,
breath. Yeah.
nice deep breath, leave it out, let it out. And you're going to do that. I prefer 3 times, 3 times.
Mhm.
Okay. The O is for observe. Now, this is the part. Okay.
Mhm.
That's a little hard for some people, especially initially, but I want you to
Yes.
observe what your feelings are. What are you feeling right now?
Right.
Right? I'm
Right.
feeling anxious.
Anxious. Okay.
And so then, and it's like, well, what are the thoughts that I'm having that's making me feel anxious? Well, I'm like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I just heard that there's an accident on the 401 and I'm not going to be able to get to work on time. And what am I going to do? My boss is going to get mad.
Right.
And
Yeah.
see how
Yeah.
that creates anxiety, right?
Yes. Yep.
And then the P is to proceed with a better thought or even
Mhm.
just to pause. Some people are like, I'm not there yet. Okay, great. Now you're just going to pause and you're
Yep.
just going to take a pause and notice just stuff around you. And
Yes.
there are many practitioners that will use the 5 senses. Can't always use the five
Yes.
senses,
Yeah.
all 5 of them, but you can just stop and pause and go, what am I seeing right? What's one thing I'm seeing right now?
Yes.
What's one thing I'm hearing right now?
Yep.
What is one thing I am smelling right
Yep.
now? Those are the
Yep.
3 easy ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can also just go, what am I tasting right now? And you might
Yeah.
still have a little, after effect of the lunch you just had or whatever. And go,
Yep.
oh yeah, okay, I'm tasting it. Or I'm tasting a little metal maybe from that filling I just had done. Or, well, they don't do that
Right.
anymore. I did ever
Yeah.
just age myself there. But anyway, so that does that make sense?
It
And
does.
feel. Actually,
Uh,
feel is another sense that
yeah.
we do in the moment. It's like,
Yes.
what am I feeling sensory wise right now? I'm feeling the chair under my butt or I'm feeling my desk. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you will calm down exponentially. Like, trust me,
It's just like,
this works.
psh, psh.
It just
It's like
brings you
turning down
down.
the dial on a radio. For me, it's like
Then
that.
if
Yeah.
if you can, is when then proceed with a better thought. So it might be, okay, it's not my fault that there's an accident on the 401. I'm sure if I
Yes.
call my boss now and
Yes.
say, I'm so sorry, it can't be helped. This is the route I have to take, and there's an accident. I know I'm going to be a half hour late today.
Right.
Most bosses, and if you have a boss that isn't going to be reasonable about that, then I'm going to go start looking
It's
for
time
another
to
job.
review. Yeah, it's time to review. I
But
like your
anyway,
stop.
yeah,
Laminate that. I hope you have that, and
yes.
then you laminate
Well,
and
I
you
do. I
hand it
have it on a
out.
little card
I
that
love it.
sits on my, cause for my clients, right? And
Right.
more often than not, I have them write it down
I'm
because they're
gonna
not
have
going
to
to
do
remember
that.
it.
I'm looking
Write
around
it
going, "Do I
down.
have a card?"
You just gave me a good idea. I should actually get a bunch of them and laminate them. I have a
Oh, I love
laminator
that I think it would be wonderful,
and
and then
hand
put
them
your
out to my
name in
clients, and I don't have
and
to get
get
them
your
to write
name
it
and
down.
email. Yeah, put your email address on
Yeah,
there and just
that's a
and
great
hand that
idea.
out. I
Such a
love
good
that
business
idea.
person. Yeah.
I
So that's a
just
quick thing that
business
people can
brain. I
do.
have
There are other things as well. I always say one of the things is just to change your state. And
Mhm.
you know what I mean by that? So change
Well,
literally the state that you're in.
yeah.
Meaning if I am like really super tired right now, I'm
Yeah.
in a tired state, go for a little short walk.
I
Like
do
I'm
that
telling you,
all
around
the
the block
time.
does a
Fresh air.
world of difference. Fresh
Yeah, fresh
air,
air.
or
Yep.
if you can, if it's a bad day, walk
Yep.
around your house.
Do some, yeah, go into a physical for me. it's physically, if I say I'm speaking with a client, it's been very upsetting, the person's going through a very difficult time, and when I'm done speaking with the client, then I will often go, "Okay, I need to go for a walk," and I will
Yeah.
remove myself from being in front of a computer or on the phone and walk because we have a lot of forest here. So I completely agree
Mhm.
with stating
Eh,
that. I
One of
just
the
want to
things,
sorry, go
I
ahead,
know
Leah.
we're mindful of time,
No,
and
no,
I
it's
just
fine. Go ahead,
really
Leah. Go
quickly
ahead.
want to, one of the things that we have really identified in this work that, in the work of mental health in particular, but also for physical health is, everybody, most people I'm guessing, have heard of the fight flight response, right?
Oh,
That's the stress
yes.
response.
Yes.
Fight
Yeah.
flight freeze is actually the complete thing, because sometimes we do freeze when we're in a
Yes.
very threatening situation. So
Yeah.
here's what is not happening for most people, though. Fight is like, oh, I'm gonna right.
Yeah. You're
Flight is
constantly
I'm gonna
on.
run as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And freeze is I can't do either of those things, so I'm just gonna stop and
Yes.
hope that the person doesn't see, or
Hope it
so
goes
what I
away.
want to talk about, though, is in the animal world there is
Yes.
a fourth component that they do automatically that we as humans do not. Because when you go into fight, flight, freeze, when you go into the stress response, there's all kinds of
Right.
things happening in your body, right?
Hmm.
You're in a whole different system now, and you're creating adrenaline, cortisol, probably other hormones as well.
Yeah.
And things are not flowing the way they have to flow, and your other systems start to shut down because they got to send all their resources to you being able to either fight, flight. So digestion, this is where a lot of digestive problems happen.
Yes.
So in the animal world, they feel all that, right? So,
Hmm.
you got a little bunny who's like hopping around looking for berries or whatever bunnies eat.
Right.
They eat my lettuce, I know that. And all
Strawberries.
of a sudden, a fox comes along, and the
Yes.
little bunny goes,
All right.
oh, that's not good.
Everything's,
I
yeah.
can't outrun it. I can't fight it. I'm just going to stop and blend into the scenery, right? But then, and the fox goes, oh, nothing here for me, and goes away. When it goes away, the little bunny goes, whoo, whoo. Now,
And
if you ever
gets,
notice cats doing that, cats go, and then they stretch,
yes.
like
Yeah.
dogs will do a shake.
Yes. Yes. That's true.
That
Yeah.
is the release part. That is the release of the stress response that we humans do not do.
And we need to
And we need
desperately.
to. And
Yeah.
that's why we then shove it down into the body. And then the next thing happens.
Internalize,
The next thing happens. And of
internalize.
course, in these times, everything is a threat, even when it's not an actual threat, because it's a
Yeah.
threat mentally, right?
Yeah.
So
We're
so
always,
here's
always,
what I have
always.
started to teach people
Yeah.
is you must do the stress completion. When you have had a stressful situation, I want
Yes.
you to then, if you're sitting down, stand up and just shake it out.
Yeah.
Shake your hands out. Yes, because they're like, oh, I'm gonna look like an idiot. And I'm like, well, go to the
Yeah.
bathroom then. If you don't
Yeah.
want anyone to see you, who cares? But go to the bathroom, shake it out, shake your legs, or if you can, go for a walk, do something physical,
Yeah. I
right?
agree with
Dance it
that
out. One of my
completely.
favorite
Yeah.
ways is to dance.
Yeah.
And, if I've had a stressful situation just happen and I can feel my heart's like, and I'm like, I need to come down. I will put on my favorite. I have a Body Groove membership.
Oh,
So
yeah.
and they have like 5-minute things. I will literally put that on and I am dancing away, or just I have music on and I just
Yeah.
dance.
Yeah.
So those are some things that it costs nothing. It costs nothing to do any of the
Yes.
things I have told you so far.
No. Nope. Nothing. You're
And
right.
of course, though, there are the deep rooted things that I'm hoping
Yeah.
people will come to someone like me, whether it's me or someone else. I will say to people, listen, if it's not me, that's okay. I don't take it
Yeah.
personally, but please find
Exactly.
somebody
Yes.
that you can
Somebody that
talk
that you
to.
have a fit with. Yes.
Yes, who can help you to make the connections, because that's the first step is let's make the connection to your past, when these patterns started, when
Right.
there were similar situations that are now triggering you
Right.
in
So
a different
identify
way.
those, right? Identify those, right?
That's
Once,
right.
yeah, because then of course you can start to heal from trauma once you identify where this is all coming from. I
Yes.
absolutely agree with that.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
did want to say something on the because people are in such financial
Yeah.
straits
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, they are.
The one thing that COVID really helped me with was I ended up on pretty much every insurance plan. So if people have any kind of employment insurance,
Yes. Yes.
employee assisted insurance,
Yeah.
um,
EAP. Yeah. I'm a huge
yeah,
fan of an EAP.
yeah.
That's an employee
Um,
assistance program. We have
because
it.
it used
Love
to
it.
be years
Yeah.
ago that you had to be a psychiatrist, psychologist, or masters of social work, and I don't have any of
Right.
those. But I have the experience that many of those don't have.
Yeah. I'm
You know
like,
what I
you work
mean?
for victim
And so I
services.
was so happy. So what happened during COVID was so many people needed help
Yes.
and couldn't. And the other thing is, you might be able to see a psychiatrist maybe 1.5 times if you're lucky, depending on your
Yeah.
insurance.
Hmm.
Whereas with because my rates are less than what a psychiatrist would be.
Hmm.
So the good news is I have a huge number of my clients are
EAP.
on insurance. Hmm.
Excellent. I'm really glad
Yeah.
to hear that. I'm glad you shared that because I'm a huge fan of an EAP program, and I have employees, and my I insisted that the plan that I went with for my employees for
Mm.
benefits and stuff included an EAP program. I
Yeah.
absolutely insisted
Yeah.
on that.
And it,
Uh,
it can be two different things because sometimes, like the EAP, you can only use their particular counselors.
yes.
With me, it's like most insurances now,
Yeah.
the good ones for sure, have a mental health component to
Oh
it. So
yeah.
it's like your physiotherapist, your
Yep.
massage therapist,
Hmm.
and then counseling is all under there.
It's so desperately needed
Yes,
now.
and
Just
so,
it's
you don't even have to go through the EAP. You can just
no. Yeah.
submit, my insurance. I am a member of the Ontario College of Social Workers, and so I have
Good.
a registration number, and that's all
Yeah.
the insurance companies
Perfect.
for.
Thank you. So I'm just going to say, I've known Leah for a very long time. I personally know of many people that she has helped. I have sent people in her direction.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
so, oh no, glad to do it. And I encourage anyone who would like to speak to a counselor to contact Leah with all the contact information. But why don't you tell us what's your email address where the people can get hold of you?
I will. And I do the counseling, the therapy work, and I
Yep.
also do coaching. So if you're feeling
Yes.
like, you know what, I know I've dealt with a lot of my stuff, but I now have these goals I want to achieve, but for some
Yeah.
reason I'm really stuck and I don't know why. I can also help you with that.
That's
And you
wonderful.
can if you go to my website, which is
Mhm.
lifelessons.ca, so plural LIFELESSONS.ca.
Perfect.
You will find everything, including my podcast.
Excellent.
I haven't had new episodes for a little bit because I'm on a little bit of a hiatus right now, but there are 82 episodes that I've
Good for
already
you.
recorded. And
Wonderful.
it was Shaelene was one of my guests, and
Mhm.
I've had amazing guests. So there's a whole page on my website about my podcast. It's available on all popular podcast platforms, so you can also find
Perfect.
me that way, the podcast. But and I'm on social media. I do have a Facebook page, Life Lessons Unlimited, and on Instagram, I'm at Butterfly Lessons,
Mhm.
um, which is butterflies are my thing. It's my logo
I
now
love
because
it.
it represents transformation, right?
You'd love my place. I have butterfly
Oh,
things everywhere here. You got
really?
to
Oh,
come
I'd
out.
be
Yeah,
going, okay, what
you'd
can I
love
sneak out of here that
it.
Shaylene's not gonna? No, I do too. I have lots of
Everywhere.
butterflies.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you so much. This
You're
was
most welcome.
so fitting to be discussing this now. I'm very, very grateful to be sharing this with the entire world because I think at some point in life, every single person needs to talk to somebody. And
Absolutely.
if you're thinking you really it's time for me to talk to somebody, I strongly encourage you to speak with Leah.
I
Thank you
thank you
very
so
much
much.
for your time. Thank you, everyone, for watching and for listening, and continued wellness for everybody. I'm wishing continued wellness for everyone. Take care. Thank you all. Bye. Thank you, Leah.
Bye. Thank you.